Thank you for your time. Pleasure to get with you guys today. My name is Brett Riggins. I'm one of the co-founders here with Physician Wealth Systems. I'm also here with Thomas. Hey, Thomas, how's it going?
Good. My name is Thomas Guy. I'm the other co-founder of Physician Wealth Systems. And what we do here is we help physicians increase their net worth by $50,000 or more in less than 90 days by acquiring off-market real estate, 30 to 70% of market value. Brett, if you want to take it from here.
Yeah, awesome. Another big part of that too is the tax benefits that does provide for us. And that's makes me excited to introduce David with K2 Business Group and the team there. Looking great. Hey, David, how's it going?
Doing wonderful. Thank you so much, Brett and Thomas. We're super excited. So David with K2, we are actually really focused on helping you increase your value. So you want a 5X or 10X and you're wondering why your business is dropping in that 1 or 2X pool, we're the group to talk to. If you're looking to impact taxes in a really powerful way and find things that dollars that have been sitting back and you've been wondering, why are these dollars burning out with the government when I could be putting them into my family or my business or my future? We're the group to talk to. So super excited. My background is I've worked with a family office for many years. I've also worked with large businesses for a number of years, and I'm all about the experience if you can't tell with the tone. I want you guys to have a wonderful time while you're going through this journey and searching out those nuggets that will help create the value in your life. So that value, though, comes from a powerful team. So I'm one of the founding partners. I want to introduce you to some of my partners because they're where the magic happens.
I'm Dan Matheson. I am a chartered life underwriter, certified exit planning advisor, chartered financial consultant, and a retirement income certified professional. That's a mouthful, but really what it comes down to is sidebar. Let's figure out how much in tax savings we can start. If we start typically there, it opens up a whole lot of opportunities, and that's our specialty.
So my name is Garrick Reevs. I actually, kind of like David, came from a family office background, worked with family office for quite a few years, and in the financial realm. Before that, and up until now, owned about 6 or 7 different businesses. So I love entrepreneurship. I love talking about some of these kinds of things, but I'm the strategy guy. I'm the guy who dives in and helps you kind of look at, okay, how do all of these different pieces from our personal and our business fit together? How do they cohesively work together like cogs in a clock to make the clock work, right? And make it work seamlessly. So that's kind of where I come in.
And I'm Parker Jardine. I'm just a pretty face. I don't really do anything there. But my background is in insurance and investments. It probably started when I was 13 or 14, getting up at 5 in the morning to learn how to trade futures with Dad. So I've always kind of had a knack for money, and my first real world experience, I think, is when I put all my college savings into life insurance, significantly cut down the cost of school, and then leveraged that money to actually make money while I was in school. College education is a little bit different story that we'll get into later, but that's kind of my background. I'm also one of the certified exit planning advisors. So we do a lot in, part of the high level or advanced tax strategies, not only on the front end that Garrick is really good at, but how do we continue to save money on taxes and perpetuate that for the future to ensure, tax-free income down the road or a tax-free exit or significantly reduce the taxes on our business and other income. So.
That's awesome. Hey, well, thanks. I really appreciate it, guys. Something that hit my ears right out of that was tax-free exit. I think those things put together in one sentence, it piques my interest right out of the gate. So why don't we take a look at some of the questions that we have pop up that I know we come across all the time here at PWS. I'm sure you guys come across this stuff a lot too. So, what's the difference between investing in a syndication and say owning real estate outright for yourself?
There's a lot there. And just like anything else, guys, there's really no perfect investment out there. There's pros and cons to just about anything that you do. I would say probably the main advantages to owning real estate outright versus a syndicate is freedom and control. There's some really good tax advantages as well, namely depreciation, accelerated depreciation, and or cost segregation that can provide immediate tax savings for you. And also the liquidity event. Honestly, you've got a lot more control over the liquidity. The other option is that we can, if we own our own real estate, we don't necessarily have to be a real estate professional, but we can still be considered from the tax code standpoint an active participant in the management of that. So that allows us to take certain losses or higher losses typically, or additional losses that we'd otherwise not be able to as a passive investor, as a syndicate participant.
And one thing just to kind of add on to that, just to with the depreciation is very different, and you may or may not see some of that with the syndication. Whereas if you are a real estate owner, you get to see all of that and realize all of that yourself. So that is one major advantage as well.
Yeah, and I think cash flow is probably one of the main reasons we do real estate in the first place, and you can get that from both. But by owning and controlling the real estate, we obviously have more control. We have a lot more leverage. So with mortgages come some advantages as well, and refinancing. There's something called inflation is a hot topic, right? There's something called inflation-induced debt destruction. So owning your own real estate in that sense, inflation can actually be a good thing to help not only increase or appreciate the value of the properties that you own and control, but also the dollars that you're paying for those are now being used more efficient on the same mortgage that you had based on how inflation is eating away at that. So
yeah,
tax advantages, I think we already hit on that. It opens up the door to just a lot more tax advantages because we control that. And then I think the liquidity, I just would hit on that again. That's a big one when we're talking about real estate. If something goes wrong, we want to make sure that we can call an audible and make a change.
Yeah. Liquidity is huge. David, what do you got?
Yeah, I just want to add to this. So think of it this way, guys. Some of you may own an actual practice. Some of you may be working in a practice. And the point of the matter is that you're making your income from a place that you have control, education, and influence. To then go take that money into a place that you have no control in an unknown investment that you don't feel like you have, that you're not going to get the impact and the value back that you'd like. So to work with a group like PWS, like Brett, like Thomas, to be able to put it in the hands of somebody who's going to put that power back in your hands, because you've just made your whole career of money in a place where you have education, you have influence, and you have relationships, and you're about to go to a place that you may be not as familiar with. And the reason why we're often making this shift is this: we're wanting to not be in a time for exchange with our money. And so it doesn't mean, though, we want to lose control in that exchange. We've seen this happen in the market where we go forfeit that control somewhere else. Now, in the right hands, if you get in control, you can actually take money that you've earned and place it into a place where you can still have control and get all those wonderful, beautiful impacts that they talked about with taxes, and then go on those vacations you wanted to do. So,
yeah, that's great, David. And not having that control and not having those relationships, and that's all referencing that syndication piece where it's kind of like just letting it go out there. Correct. The thing I love about the single family residential and real estate in itself is what I tell everybody, the stackable returns of it. For syndication, you're typically in and out maybe 18, 20, 24 months where you've got a preferred return, you're in and out. It does return nice. But what would you say if I said we could produce that something very, very close in that time frame, but then add the perpetual aspect of it? So when you own it, control it, you have that continuation of it. And the stackable piece, we've talked about cash flow. The stackable piece can come in when you're looking at principal pay down. So we can cash out front and you can do a cash on cash return. But let's look at what's called the BRRRR strategy, where we buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and then repeat. Well, that principal pay down is going to happen. So the tenant is actually paying down your principal, and that's increasing your return year over year over year. And then we look at the depreciation piece, fluctuates just a little bit based off of everybody's tax bracket, obviously. So these stackable returns, and then Jordan, you were talking about the appreciation. So all of these things played in are massive value to where the owning outright is going to have value for you over a syndication scenario.
Or a REIT.
Yeah. Or a REIT. Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
Right. Can I bring up another point here that I think that you touched on? One of the nice things about what you're doing is that you're showing people how to leverage. And it's compounding and compounding. In a syndication, really what's happening is that you're taking your money and you become a very passive investor. But that's it's a transaction. That's not a bad thing. When we become business owners and we own real estate as a business, there are multiples of tax savings that come to you. And that tax savings creates more tax savings because we the way that we can invest it. And it's not just about rate of return. When we've got all of the advantages of the tax code as a business owner, especially as a real estate business owner, the tax savings, you need to include that in the rate of return. It's just that the tax savings comes at no risk, as long as we're filing the tax code properly. And then that money, that tax savings, then can be reinvested and reinvested and reinvested and multiply, even leverage further the strategies that you are already have in place.
Yeah. Here at Physician Wealth Systems, we'll often get questions like, I like annuities. I like syndications. I like the ease of it. I don't have time to deal with that. So at PWS, and I say also for K2 clients, this could still work. The systems that we've put together allows you to have very similar time requirements as you would in that syndication or annuity. Nothing is ever completely passive. And even in syndications, annuities, if you're completely passive, you're leaving money on the table somewhere. Like yes. you're just letting people give you stuff, which it could work, right? But again, back to the community, back to getting into that knowledge piece, getting in with the right group. This is what we've built here. We're excited to work with everybody, K2, PWS, clients back across the board to implement these strategies, from taxes, from real estate investing. And then the big picture with everybody is, where are you going? How are you getting back? Making sure you're getting there safely.
Absolutely.
The other thing, Brett, if I can just bring another point out, is that everybody, especially physicians, need to know how to leverage their time, right? So if during this process, you could save $100,000, $200,000 of taxes, think about how much time, how many patients you'd have to see to reap $100,000 or $200,000. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. But if you're willing to spend just a little bit, a few hours, and educate yourself and see how these things work, it pays off just about more than anything else that you can do as far as a return on your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get this all the time too, speaking with clients and prospects, and it's something that touches a note for everybody. And I've heard it time over time in self-development stuff is, if you're not making money while you sleep, you're going to be working until you die. And that's a big piece of leveraging and being with the right group of people and being with the right investments that makes a big difference. Yeah, David, you have a
I was just going to say, I used to tease about when I was fighting in my career before about getting a seat at the table, and always feeling like it was always the seat was moving or the table was moving or the room was moving, and I could never find my seat at the table. And I've come to find out that rooms like this are where you get your seat at the table, being invited to places where best-in-class companies are collaborating with best-in-class companies to let you know what it takes to invest in yourself in a way that gives you a return that you can feel comfortable with, confident with, and that is measurable. So I get excited about it a lot. So
yeah, that's great. It's great. I'm love it. And one of the things that attracted me to K2 is our conversations right out of the gate. I know what's worked for me in the past, building my portfolio, working with our real estate acquisition company nationwide, and to have that instant connection with the communication with you and your team, things like cost segregation, bonus depreciation, overall strategy, not to take you up, but also bring you home, is big too. Personally, I had shared my story about a family member who was in the grocery business and was part of an LLC, was a multi-member LLC, and he was the last one in. And when he sold, he reaped the not so good benefits, if you guys know what I mean. So that tax-free exit thing is remarkable. A question that I get a lot from our clients is when I introduce our partnership with K2 is, how are you going to find me 30K savings? David, touch on this just a little bit. What's your average savings per client? And what are some of the big areas right out of the gate where you guys are seeing opportunity?
Absolutely. So average savings we're seeing for clients, and it's important to note that every client's in a different range, but about $32,000 is what we're seeing. And every client we've seen since that average of $32,000 a year annually, we've seen that number going up with every new interview and conversation, which has been rewarding for not just us, in being the hunters of that, but also to our clients who can redirect that cash now. The biggest thing is this: I really believe when it comes to taxes, we're running into a lot of preparers of taxes and reactive people in our tax. It doesn't mean your CPA is a bad guy or gal and that they don't have your best interest at heart. It just means they've gotten used to the rhythm of working with non-working business owners or people who are not really proactive or strategic with their wealth. And so for somebody who works with like PWS or who's worked with K2, the value that we found is we got to get back to proactive. We got to get back to personalization. And there are questions behind the questions. So if you're somebody who has done a lot of research and you're like, guys, I've seen a lot of tax strategies, I know a lot about them. There's a couple of stages I always have to ask yourself, where are you in this stage? Are you somebody who knows a lot about taxes or doesn't know a lot about taxes? And then if you know a lot about taxes, are you actually implementing them or not? So those are the important questions. You can know a lot, but if you don't know how to implement, you're still just as far away as you were when you didn't know. And so that's what we really work on for our clients. And we're looking at things relating to your family, relating to your business. If you're not a business owner, what are other things that you could be doing with your investments in real estate? We unpack it all for you.
That's great. It makes me think of implementation. And, this is not just something where we're sitting around talking. A lot of us at this table have implemented these things, have taken the opportunity and reaped the benefit from them. Thomas, what is one way that sets, I guess, the group apart when we talk about implementation? How can we save clients time when it comes to strategy and implementation? I know I'm catching you off guard on this one, but I want you to talk a little bit about our systems, our automations, what type of platforms allow us to communicate like this. We're literally across the country and even a different spot on the globe right now. Tell us a little bit about how we work together as a group.
Yeah, so the first thing that sets us apart from most groups is our communication. We have one centralized location where we communicate on every single day, if not hourly, between our clients and our partnerships to make sure that everything is working together, as well as with if you have a CPA or if you're working with anyone else on your team already, we make sure to make the communication as transparent as possible. Now, as far as saving time, we have automations, we have systems and processes in place built on a backbone of another company that we've built over the past 7 years or so, as well as we have virtual assistants overseas that are doing a lot of manual tasks to eliminate a lot of the time-consuming and repetitive things that otherwise you would need to do yourself.
Yeah, that's great. And the virtual assistants piece, and you guys haven't met that side of our team yet. It's just not a person across seas. This is actually members of our team who we meet with daily, who are in all of our meetings and really make the difference. It's exciting to share that with everybody. If you guys tell me just a little bit about K2 and what is the typical client that you work with?
I'd love to pass this one. Actually, we have I would say entrepreneurs. I want to pass this to the team a little bit, but we specialize in high earners as well, who may not be entrepreneurs. Reeves or Parker or Dan, would you like to add to that a little bit more?
Yeah, I'll add to that just a little bit. So one thing that's really cool is we're really, really familiar with the medical, like the physician space. So we worked with a lot of physicians, a lot of dentists, a lot of chiropractors, a lot of naturopaths, a lot of people in those realms, but a lot of individuals that are in the service-based industries as well. And just like David said, it's those individuals that are business owners or that are high income earners that are looking for other ways to get them to where they want to be, right? Not just in their business and in their financial, but also in their personal. So that's something that we're looking at as well.
Yeah, and I would say with the entrepreneurs and business owners that we work with, it's helping them actually get insight into their own business. And that's probably why we start with taxes a lot first, because we can plug a lot of the leaks that they didn't even know were there and get much better insight into their business to know where they're actually trying to go and make educated decisions around their business and strategies to help them get there. So understanding where they're actually at in terms of their business, where are the gaps, what's the business actually worth, what kind of systems and processes do I have in place, what kind of customers and contracts and recurring revenue do I have coming in. And we take clients and business owners through kind of a value acceleration methodology or framework to help them identify these key points, to kind of look under the hood, so to speak, of their business and see what's not working well or what could be operating a lot better. And not only enhance and increase the value of their business, but also the multiplier that's within the range of their industry. And so we can make moves within a year that could literally add millions of dollars to a business. And sometimes that's just fixing some of the issues before we even get into the value enhancement process and planning. So that's kind of why we all have come together, because it takes a team to do that, and it takes a well-coordinated team. So like communication, we've talked a lot about, is paramount, because most business owners that we find, they already have a CPA, they already have an accountant, they might already have a financial planner, and some of these key people in these roles, but none of them talk together. And the financial planner is going to advise you on something different than what the CPA might have recommended, or they're going to conflict. And the tax attorney or the, my estate planner might recommend something that doesn't line up with what the CPA recommended. And so now you end up with 12 different plans and nothing coordinates, and either you do the wrong thing or you do nothing. And so that's really how we've come together in this phase, and just in our own individual lives, but then as a group. And the impact that we've been able to see is awesome. And I think that's why working with folks like PWS and Thomas and Brett just enhances that process to help offload some of the investments and the income, and just putting it all together makes it just pretty powerful.
I'm going to add one more plug here too. Let's imagine you're a non-business owner, but you're a high earner. What we find out for physicians, whether you're a dentist, doctor, chiropractor, surgeon, whatever it might be, you've become a professional employee. And how do you get to ownership without feeling like owning a business or owning the wealth in your life without feeling the weight of ownership? So resources like finding the right investments with the right people, resources like maximizing and mitigating taxes and finding ways you can increase value are really important places to start. So whether you're looking at ERC or R&D credits or paying your kids, or there's literally, the tax book is thousands of pages long. We looked it up. It's a $1,400 book. You can buy that book today if you want to, and just feel like you're lost reading a foreign language, or you can find somebody to help get through that book for you and say, hey, listen, we understand the book. We're going to give you the 10% that applies to you, so you don't waste 90% of your time guessing which 10% applies to you and your family. And so we want to put wealth back in your pocket. And a lot of those places start with taxes, and then we can increase value from there.
That's awesome. And whether it's, construction worker, physician, self-employed, I've had personal experience. And again, why I relate personally with K2 is because of this: building a team, the attorney, the accountant, the planner, the estate, right? What is this direction? And through my journey of being a hammer swinger, of being an investor, of being a business owner, I know the value that lies in association and expanding associations. I'm excited again to be here with K2 and with PWS as well. We touched briefly on time frame, and it makes me think, when I hear the question, how long does this take, or what does this look like for a physician? So at PWS, we're looking at increasing net worth by $50,000 in 90 days or less through these different mechanisms. So if we look at in those first 90 days, right out of the gate, we're taking a snapshot instantly, working with K2, looking at the big picture, looking at, hey, is there ways we can instantly plug holes or take up opportunities? But for PWS, I know in that first 90 days, we're going to be looking at acquiring a single family residential. And with that, we have what we call air equity. So we're forcing equity into a property. And then we're going to have this return payout. Obviously, we're looking at a return over a year. But in that first year, we can see massive return for our investments. What's the time frame look like for a typical client to realize that $30K minimum benefit on the tax savings side for you guys at K2?
The beautiful thing about this one, guys, is that we tell people often, within 14 days
Or less.
You could be well on your way, legally, ethically, morally, saving 50, 100, 200,000 dollars of taxes like that. And the reason why is it's because it's just a different look of how we're going to position ourselves. So Instead of being reactive, we're being proactive. When we're proactive, we can foresee basically what the tax liability is going to be. And all of these strategies, tick, 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 we start qualifying for all of these other strategies and the income deductions that we previously didn't get. And now we know really quickly how much tax savings there are. Now, let's just imagine that it is $60,000 in taxes. We know that we're confident by doing X, Y, Z proactively with a specific plan in mind that tax savings is going to be $60,000. Well, just imagine that's $5,000 per month that we're not having to set aside for the IRS bill come
hit those quarterlies.
Hit
those quarterlies.
15th, right? Yeah. That instantly frees up cash immediately without taking any risk whatsoever, as long as we're doing that via a sound tax plan and following the tax code to the letter. We shouldn't be afraid of the tax code. Now, taxes are the enemy, but the tax code is our friend. It will help us, and it's immediate. That's the bottom line. It's immediate. You can immediately fill the benefits right away. That's what's so beautiful about it.
Yep.
I want to jump on this one just a little bit because, Dan, I'm so glad you said it so eloquently, but I want to add to it with a story. So instant value, absolutely. In fact, I would say once a client has chosen to engage with us and they said, okay, we want to hit the ground running, what does it take to get started? Once they've done that, by your first meeting, if you've completed the first assignment we've given you, we can give you down to the dollar our first stage of findings already. Down to the dollar what the first stage of findings in the first call once you've decided to move forward. So an example of that is we had a gentleman named Wayne. He's given me permission to use a little bit of his story. So I'm going to share that with you guys. He loved his tax guy. Friend he has a drink with every now and then. They've been friends for years. He's been in business for 35 years. You can imagine he's seen and done and been a part of all of it. And he's just like, I want to do the value creating thing that you guys do. I want to increase my value of my business. I don't know if there's much with taxes. And I had to tell him, I said, listen, Wayne, I can't in good conscience not look at your taxes. Our team is known for a comprehensive approach. We got to look at your taxes, but know this, we're going to protect your CPA and all the hard work you guys did by not insulting their work or you in the last several years you guys have been working together. What we're going to do instead is this, just allow us the opportunity to give a second look at your taxes. And in doing so, we will arm you and your CPA with the information needed for you to be able to capitalize on maybe some missed opportunities. And if there's nothing there, then go out and take him out for a drink because you owe him another drink because he's been doing a really good job. So we led him with that first call, first conversation. Once he decided to work with us, we found $260,000. $260,000.
And that's right out of the gate. What happens after that first year?
I'll speak to that for a second.
Yeah, I was gonna say I want to pass this one to Reeves because he's the one that finds the magic for us. So
yeah.
So this one's a fun one to talk about, and Wayne is awesome. So yeah, we found well over $200,000 within that first conversation, and diving into that a little bit deeper, we found out that there's still a lot of opportunity for him. So like just even giving you one example is the employee retention credit. He qualifies for that. That is up to $25,000 per employee that we can get back for him. He has about 15 to 20 employees. So you can imagine it's a heck of a lot more that we can recoup for him. Mm-hmm. So that's just the starting point. And here's the cool thing with taxes is just like Dan talked about, taxes are not something that's a one and done kind of thing either. The beauty of taxes is that it's an every year thing. So we free up $60,000 or $260,000. It doesn't matter. That's freed up every single year from this point moving forward, even if we did nothing less or nothing else in strategy. That's awesome. Just knowing that you're going to have another $60,000 next year that you get to keep. So your next went up by $60,000 next year and the next year and the next year and the next year. That's a lot of confidence that brings you just by knowing even just that, even if we did nothing else. So just had to,
Yeah,
That's
most
awesome.
of our clients are going to see more than an average of $1 million back in their pocket, taking zero additional risk just by keeping more of what they make rather than going out having to try and make more.
Wow.
And if it's okay, Brett, I got this other thing I just got to say, just because I'm so excited
We
about it.
get too excited about taxes.
We're nerds.
You literally got us geeking out right now, and we're
Yeah, right.
wielding our geeking sword, tax sword.
I think what's exciting about this and this approach is that you need to understand that it's not too good to be true, and it's not tax evasion. It is following the tax code. If a person would take a look and take a step back and say, why is the tax code written the way that it is? It's not the IRS that writes the tax code. It's Congress. Congress writes the tax code, and it's Congress that wants us to do certain things. They're going to incentivize us. They're going to incentivize us to not buy cigarettes, not buy, alcohol, because those are called sin taxes. They're going to encourage us to have children. That's why we get tax deductions for children.
Future taxpayers.
They're future taxpayers. They're going to encourage us to buy real estate. That's why we get so much tax deductions for real estate, because real estate, it pumps the economy. That's exactly what it does. And that's what Congress wants us to do. So if we follow the tax code, it's our friend. So it's not like we're pulling the wool over the IRS in any way. We're doing exactly what Congress wants us to do and following the laws that they've put in place. And so I'm going to make that click and that distinction, it makes a lot more sense.
That exact topic right there. And I've heard this, my own experience working through my journey. You've got proactive, reactive, tax filing, that kind of stuff. Well, I know you guys for this, we haven't talked about this question, but there's the black and white and there's the gray. So what does that mean to you guys when you hear black and white taxes versus the gray area?
All right, you got me on a roll. So here's the thing. I talk to a lot of CPAs. I am not a CPA myself. I'm a strategist, right? We do have CPAs that we work with and that are strategizing around this with me. There are a lot of CPAs that are very reactive, not proactive, meaning you bring everything to them, and oftentimes we bring them to them, and a lot of us procrastinate, so we get it to them a little bit later than we thought we would in the first place. Now they have minimal time to go through and see what deductions and tax strategies, advantages that we have and that we can take before they file it. It's a very reactive approach because it's like, oh, okay, let's see what you got. Oh, shoot, you owe a ton in taxes. That happens a lot, especially and my favorite is when CPAs approach this, they'll say, oh, they act like it's such a great thing, because it is, but they're like, you had such an awesome year this year. Like you made $200,000 more than you had made last year. Here's your tax bill.
Yeah.
And
it's like, yikes.
Hey, wait a second. That's a lot more than I had prepared for or knew that was coming in taxes. But the reason that I wanted to talk about this a little bit is because there is that reactive approach. And I talked to a lot of CPAs, and this gray, like you were talking about, versus the black and white. I don't think that actually exists. The reason I'm going to say that is because it's literally written in the tax code. You follow the tax code, it's always black and white. It's never gray. So if you hear that from your CPA, they haven't delved enough into those topics to really understand it, because there's so many topics where I've gone to a CPA or talked with somebody's CPA and they're like, oh no, we can't do that. That will raise red flags. I hate that term. The one reason I hate that term is because I always have these conversations with them and I say, well, why will that raise red flags? Oh, well, you'll have a higher risk of an audit. And I'm like, okay, well, why are we trying to avoid an audit either too? Because here's the thing, the IRS, and just even from what they're doing with the Inflation Reduction Act, their whole goal is to audit. It's whether you're prepared and you have to worry about that audit or you don't, right?
And if you're doing things by the book, there's no
reason.
And that's what and really, guys, there's no reason to push the envelope. There's enough legitimate tax strategy out there that's going to provide you with plenty of tax savings opportunities.
Yeah, we don't have to go offshore and create some complex dynamic trust system and, Swiss bank accounts. We don't even have to worry about that. And to the credit of CPAs and accountants, because most of our clients that come to us for tax strategy actually have a CPA or a tax preparer. And whether they, end up replacing that person or not is totally up to them. But to a CPA's credit or an enrolled agent or a tax preparer, they are trained, taught, and educated to be compliant.
Yes.
They're not taught to sit down with Brett and dive into his real estate portfolio and look at the different opportunities or strategies to see how much more we could potentially save in taxes. CPAs can push out returns, in minutes. That's not what a tax planner or strategist is going to do.
But you need both.
Well, and I love the way you put this. There's no gray area, Reeves. I really want to I've been in this game for years now and plan to be in it for longer. I think that's probably the best I've ever heard it, is there's no gray area. The gray area is when you're crossing the very clear lines very intentionally. And there's no reason, to Dan's point, that we do that. And so what I love about this is if we put enough attention into just unpacking this and looking through the data, then you are going to find out that it will all reveal itself to you. So I just want to echo those comments. I really, really appreciate that and champion behind that as well.
It's awesome. Hey, that was a good conversation there. Good stuff happening. Hey, so at PWS and at K2, say that we've pulled the trigger. And what if we put it this way, guys? What if we said, okay, you can save $60,000 this year in taxes. Well, boy, that funds the entire investment to work with the team twice over, right? I mean, that's a massive investment right out of the gate here. So oftentimes I'll get the question of, what does that look like? Well, I just want to make sure it's a fee one time out front. And for that fee one time out front, this engages PWS in the 90-day period to go after this target goal for you, acquiring these cash flowing assets. And then on the front side, David, tell us a little bit about what's that look like in that one-time fee? What happens when we do engage in service? Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So you've essentially asked us to put on our hats and just go to work and unpack everything in your taxes that has been maybe missed intentionally, unintentionally, and go to work. So what we would do is we would assign you first a questionnaire. We want you to fill out a questionnaire in relationship to your business and your personal, because if we don't look at the complete picture, we're not looking at all the areas that we could create impact for you. Second is we're going to ask you to send in your tax returns for the last 2 to 3 years for, again, business and personal. These are extremely important because you're going to know certain pieces of your data that you just know. And so filling out that questionnaire will probably take you about, and I don't mind telling you, I want to be honest, it's going to take you a couple of hours. So just buckle down because you've probably been thinking of it for the last 5 or 10 years and putting it off. The moment you find out we found you 10, 20, 30, 60, $100,000 in tax savings, multiply that by how many years you didn't do it. And that 2 hours will look like nothing to you. You'll say, I wish I would have done this sooner, so that we can now start putting that in place. So if you did those two things, the questionnaire and sending your tax documents, that will give us and our team the resources or the information needed to go to our resources and start unpacking what those taxes are. And then we will pass the ball to Reeves and that team to start looking in deeper, and we'll schedule a call with you. And that call will be to then come up with a summary. Now, the summary is the most important part in my mind. A lot of companies will tell you tax strategies and they'll just say, hey, listen, here's what you needed to know. And that's fine and well. But the problem is, again, there is not knowing, and then knowing how to implement. Vastly different approaches. How do we get you from not knowing to knowing, and more importantly, to implementation? This report generated will show you not just what strategies apply to you personally, but it's also going to let you know everything that needs to happen in order for you to have the proper documentation and the peace of mind to recover it.
That's awesome. I want to plug in
one
last piece there. Those documents are so important. And yes, it does take time, like David was saying, but think of the return on your investment, because we're talking about returns and investments and those kinds of things.
On your time,
and on your time. You've got a time investment of a couple hours. But if we can free up $20,000, look at the return on that time. And if we can free up $20,000 or $30,000 or plus, that perpetuates year after year, what was the return on that investment of time? That's what we're talking about. And that's why those questionnaires and the documentation, so important to take the time to do that, because it can mean a lot of money back in your pocket. So
that's awesome. And there's Thomas, I think this, correct me if I'm wrong, I know you'll know this, Brian Tracy, I believe he wrote the book, Eat That Frog. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So, and I've done the same way, again, applying my personal experience in this journey here. And I'm sure clients and prospects with both BWS and K2 will feel the same way as I do. That hesitation, that procrastination, another PFS, another financial statement. I don't want to deal with this. I got to track down that, but get over it. And I think the biggest piece of working with the right people at the table is the ability to tell you that I have empathy for you. I've been through there. I know what that feels like, but leads into the next question of how do you become a great client for or with K2? And I may lead it off by saying, get over it and fill out that form and put in those 2 hours to get past it.
I love that. I would love all of us to answer this one if you guys are okay with that, because I think every one of us has a different perspective of what that means. And it's the right question to ask. I love leading with get over it. What I would add to that is this. It's extremely important to look at it in this way. I cannot, and no one on our team can be more motivated to your destination and your goals for you, your family, your business, or your career than you are. You have to be more motivated, and we can match it. Match it is great. But if we're more motivated than you and we're chasing you for data, we're chasing you to do these different things, I know it gets busy, but going back to Brett's point of get over it, there is so much value lost that if we keep chasing what we are hoping for, we could be literally cutting the ground out from under what we're hoping to create simultaneously because we're not putting the work in where it needs to be done. So in my mind, it is also that be more as motivated as your words are with your actions. And also know that there's a mutual level of trust. I believe in what we call expectations and agreements as well. Expectations are something I put on you and you put on me. An agreement, and I'm borrowing this from a friend in the industry, an agreement is something we do for ourselves. I agree to show up in a certain way to this relationship. And if I ever don't or show up shy to that, I own that, I state that, and I make it right. And that should be the same approach for the client as well. So when you guys are looking at your life, if you didn't show up to a meeting or you were late or you missed some data point, just share that information. No one here is to shame anybody. We are here to expand and grow to our full potential of ourselves. I want to meet that person I am the potential of becoming one day. And I want to help introduce you guys to that version of yourselves as well. Anybody else, I'd love to take a round of that as well.
That sounds like Ed Milet.
I know, I had to quote that. I couldn't think of what his name was, but yes, that's 100% what it is.
Well, I think go ahead.
No, you say, for me, it's just a matter of, again, evaluating what is your time worth. It's well worth your time. And it's going to be a job started, it's half done, basically, that kind of thing. It'll be well worth your time. And if we honestly feel like we can't be a good fit for you, then we're not going to waste your time, and we're not going to let you waste our time. We're in it for the long-term relationship and want to make you happy.
Awesome.
Yeah, as far as for me, communication, because I'm on the other end of that, and I'm talking with you guys on a regular basis, getting some of this information, assessing it with you, assessing the impact of that with you, helping you implement some of these things. And so for me, some of the individuals that I've seen, if you've got drive to get these things done, kind of to David's point, is like, if you're driven, if you're showing up and you're driven towards these goals, we can match you. And that's the beauty of it. So the individuals that come to mind are individuals that showed up, that were driven towards those goals, and that we had some consistent communication with. Keeping consistent communication, we can overcome any mountain as long as we communicate. As soon as we lose communication, or communication gets choppy, or we're not fully communicating what we want out of something or what we expect, that's when I see things start to break and it starts to become a really, really hard uphill climb. So
yeah, I'm sorry. And I just have to go back to this other analogy. The sooner you start work with us, the better your opportunities. The sooner you start working with us, the more strategies that can be put in place. And I'm assuming that it's really not that much different if you're a physician. The best kind of patients are those that take the medicine and follow the directions. So
Great example. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I would just say, how much longer do you want to keep tipping Uncle Sam? He's not doing anything in your business. Why does he keep getting a bonus? Right. So I think about, even if it was a small amount, why would you want to keep overpaying? And think about how many years you have been potentially overpaying. And so that, even if it's a small annual amount, if you add time to the equation, it's likely still in the six figures, if not some folks even in the seven figures that you've overpaid on unnecessarily. And so we might actually even be able to get some of that back. But going forward, let's add how many more years in practice are you going to be? And then when we add the other income with what PWS is going to generate and the additional cash flow that we can get from tax savings, it's going to be substantial.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I have to add one last thing to here, because he reminded me of something. Think of the IRS or the taxes and those kinds of things. It's an inefficient employee that you cannot fire. They don't do anything for you. They don't add any value to your business. They don't do anything.
But they're always there.
But they're always there. What if we could just pay them less?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Recoup some of that and pay them less and utilize it elsewhere. So
That's awesome. So we talked a little bit about what it looks like being a client, how to be set up agreement, I guess, between everybody in the group. And we touched a little bit on what it looks like fee-wise with that fee out front. Obviously, in strategy, there's a lot that goes into it. Everybody's company, everybody's household, PFS, everybody's going to look a little bit different. So when we come out front with a one-time fee, are there ever any times where there will be additional fees, say, on top of that in order to implement these strategies we're talking about? And I know, like, when I've done cost segregation, and I've done these certain implementations, there's engineers. I mean, there's a lot that goes into some of the strategies we're talking about. Could you guys hit on that topic just a little bit? There's a one-time fee. Then what happens, if there's implementation of that strategy?
I think that's a really good point. So there is some expectation. Sometimes there are, we can't be advisors and experts in everything, guys. It's really complex. So we do have to contract out with trusted partners. And sometimes there will be other fees, like cost segregation as one. We'll tell you this, though, you'll never be asked to do something unless it's going to be a return on your money. So if it doesn't actually make you money, then it doesn't make sense to do it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And say, one last question for you guys. I really appreciate your time today. What happens if we go through that snapshot, that initial assessment, and we're like, and you guys look at the sheets and you're like, you guys, we can't do anything for you. You're doing everything perfect. What happens?
Lives the rest of their lives thinking, wow, I've done a good job.
Wow. Yeah.
But I will tell you, that doesn't happen. Rarely have we ever come across anybody that we couldn't help in some form or fashion.
Well, and I want to add to that too. So I think it's really important that there are some rare instances that come up where somebody I would say if 95% of people out there are not maximizing their tax strategies, what if you're the 5%? So let's answer for that 5%. If we find out that you're maximizing your strategies at the fullest potential, it's probably not a coincidence. You can't accidentally find perfection or a gold honeypot somewhere. That just doesn't happen. So if that's the case, we're going to find where we can find value for you in other missing areas by increasing value on our end. We want to hunt out value for you. So you're not going to have a loss in this relationship in any way, shape, or form. We're going to find the value, even if we have to find a little additional time spent from our team to find where value can be recovered no matter what. So it's not going to be a waste of dollars, time, energy, or effort, because you have to remember your machine, to Reeves's point, this clock has several gears working and churning at once. We are looking at one called taxes. The whole thing has to work in order to work efficiently. We can look at several of those wheels because we're capable of taking our clients to further their journey down the road. So our last point I want to make here on that is for clients that they did see great success with us and they're like, oh my gosh, I loved what you found in taxes. I would really like to engage at a deeper level. taxes is the tip of the iceberg, guys. We are capable of so much more. This whole team that you're looking at on K2's side are certified exit planning advisors, and we have a robust team behind each of us. And so we can actually unpack areas in valuation, gaps in your business. How can you make an impact in other areas? And those services you can choose to add on at your comfort level with the value found. And we will just unpack more of that value with you. So
that's awesome. Well, hey guys, I really appreciate your time today. Brett Riggins here with Physician Wealth Systems, paired alongside additional co-founder Thomas Geib, and everybody here with K2 Business Group. I tell you what, I'm excited about our relationship because we're gonna grow wealth, we're gonna keep wealth, and we're gonna exit responsibly. Does that kind of sum it up for today?
yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.